When did you realize you were the villain in someone else's story? Story 1. You were the one who killed my husband. The widow of a recently deceased farmer said that to me when I called for him on the phone. I sold agricultural chemicals at the time, and she was referring to the weed killer he bought and used for years. It had recently been discovered that the active ingredient 2,4-D is carcinogenic. My customer had died of cancer, and she might not have been completely wrong, but it wasn't like I knew it was dangerous in that way. None of us did. Story 2. I am a recovered alcoholic. I guess the light got switched on for me when she told me she wanted to split up, and she gave me 3 days to get out of the house. So, naturally, I read her email to find out more. She told one of her friends, "The nightmare is finally over. You do a lot of self-deluding when you're an alkie." I thought we were desperately in love. That email was the ultimate wake-up call. Story 3. I took a cat's kittens away from her when they were 4 to 5 weeks old because she couldn't take care of them anymore due to not producing enough milk. They were also in a very terrible, unclean environment, so one's eyes started closing up. I couldn't take her with the kittens because she's an outside shop kitty, where I was bringing them into my home to clean them up, deflea them. I took around 50 off the first time and 30 off the second day, and give them the food they needed. Now they're looking healthy and being rambunctious kittens that they should be. Anyways, after I took them away, shed meow for her kittens trying to find them, and it made me think that's like how humans with missing children feel. So I felt horrible about do it, even if it was for a good cause. Update: so this received a lot more attention than I thought it would, but hey, race the thing. I already have 2 7-old cats, so even taking the kittens is not something I took lightly. Usually there was a coworker that took care of the shop feral cats, but he left this year, so other than a coworker that truly cannot afford to help them and what my boss provides for them, but it wasn't enough for the kittens. Also got attached to the white fluff ball, yes. I gave them a Dawn dish soap bath to help with the fleas, but even with the flea comb, which I suggest owning one, there were a lot of fleas. They'll be around 8 weeks old come beginning of January, so I plan to find good homes for them. Second update, just for those curious, I have now found homes for all 3 of the kitties, and my boss has fixed a mother, so no more kittens from her. Edit wrong tense. And updates. Story 4. My first semester teaching at university. Many students would sit in class, not ask questions, wouldn't contact me, and ignore my requesting they do so, or come to office hours. Those same students failed my class. I'm sure they just saw me as an enemy. Story 5. I was at a house party with some young guys and a couple girls. A girl got really drunk and passed out. I saw some guys circling her and being generally creepy. Everyone was getting ready to pass out, and I was pretty sure something awful would go down if she was left there. My reaction was to move her to her friend's room, to sleep it off with her friend away from the group. I woke her up and walked her to the room, where a friend welcomed her to share the bed. After I left the room, I was confronted by a different girl claiming it was an attempted rape. I couldn't talk my way out of it. I got an Uber out of there, but I still think about what I should have done differently in that situation. I was the enemy in that moment, and I couldn't figure out how to defend myself. I think now that it is never a good idea to be in that situation. It's no win. Story 6. English wasn't my first language, and I misunderstood the writing assignment from my 6th grade teacher. I don't remember what the prompt was, but I ended up writing a piece about a fellow classmates that no one liked. Sadly, the teacher decided that I should read mine to the class in order to practice speaking and correct any mispronunciation. I ended up insulting the kid in front of the whole class for what felt like a good minute before the teacher realized what was going on and stopped me. I realized after the fact that I was the in that story, but never had the guts to apologize. He ended up moving the following year due to bullies and family issues. Although this was the only incident between him and I, he probably viewed me as the French douchebag that publicly insulted him. Side note, I had barely been in the States for more than a year before this incident. However, that still doesn't excuse me from how I behaved. I wish him the best, and hopefully he ended up living a better life after he moved. Story 7. Throughout middle and high school, I had a back-and-forth relationship with a guy. We were the couple that everyone talked about. Our junior year of high school, he started dating a girl I was friends with. That friend decided she could no longer be friends with me and wanted me to stay away from her boyfriend. At the time, I thought she was ridiculous and naive. But I realized over time that from her point of view, she was afraid that my history with him would overcome his feelings for her. Eventually, she ended up pregnant, and I ended up free of him. In the end, I wonder if she feels that I'm the villain for that, too. Story 8. I was at a party in my teens, and a group of guys were looking to beat the out of a guy because he apparently touched one of their girlfriends. Turned out I knew that the groper, not the offended posterior, let's call him John. I ended up standing in the way despite the fact that me and John essentially hated each other. I was a smoke pit skid, and he was a bit of a preppy type to these guys. I was defending some pervert, but they weren't aware that he was likely as blackout and belligerent drunk as he was because his mom died 2 days prior. I dragged him down the street to the bus stop and sent us home. Got attitude from the group of guys for the rest of the night, and then had John wanting to fight me the next day for embarrassing him by dragging him out of the party. Come on, dude, I know you were hammered, but didn't you notice the 4 guys that want to take you out back and boot you in the alley? Story 9, my ex-husband probably considers me the villain because I put my foot down and made him take responsibility for his actions, which included him having to move back in with his parents so that he could pay his half of the bills and expenses we split when we separated. I gave him all the chances in the world and even told him I would front him several months' payments so he could find a place to live, but he had to have a job by X date. Friend even guaranteed him a job, but he skipped the interview. I've heard his versions of the story, and in the Story 10 is going on right now. I think I write software for a living. I have a coworker who's been assigned to work on the part of software that I'm responsible for. And while he's terrible at his job, he's slow to deliver the changes we need. They're never tested adequately and are almost always riddled with bugs. He's an experienced guy, several years older than I am and longer in the industry. And the changes I've asked him for should in no way be beyond his skill level. I have a junior guy who's less than a year out of college also doing some work on my portion of the software. And he's far more reliable. The whole situation is not helping my natural tendency to resist delegating work to others. I'm frustrated with the situation, as is our boss, and I'm sure this coworker is as well, but I'm sure from his perspective, I'm pushy, arrogant, and asking too much from him and not understanding of his excuses. If when he's put on an improvement plan on the path to getting fired, I'm sure he'll be the villain in his eyes, or at least the second villain behind our boss who, again, hasn't asked him to do anything beyond what someone of his experience level should be able to do. Story 11, I went back home to visit, and my uncle informed me that a lady I'd briefly dated had written a short story about me in her first book apparently. I was for breaking up with her after her ex-boyfriend threatened to beat the out of me a couple times. Sorry, lady. I don't play that lets you and him fight for my honor game. Story 12 years ago, there was a stray cat that terrorized my dog. I'd let her outside, and this big black hulking would make a beeline for her every time, had hide in various parts of the yard, and come racing to fight her when she came out. And she was a big dog, too, when we'd come running out to shoo him away, head yowl, and hiss at us aggressively before darting off. After he actually got some scratches on the dog, we called the SPCA on him. Animal control came out, nabbed him, and basically implied to us that his aggression wasn't going to earn him a lot of brownie points in the pen. Flash forward a month or so, and there's a load of missing posters around the neighborhood for Boo Bear, a big, ugly black cat. Apparently, there wasn't a stray after all. He lived on the street behind us, and now his owners wanted him back. Granted, they were twats who let their dominant male cat roam free and gave him a shitty name, but we did kind of sign their cat a death sentence. My husband called the number to let them know what happened, and the lady started screaming at him about what awful people we are for not asking them before calling animal control. Granted, we really did not believe this demon belonged to anybody. But yeah, I guess we're the villains there. Story 13, I dated someone, but was still hung up on someone else. I had to break up with this girl after a few months of dating because there's another woman. I think she assumed I had cheated on her, which I didn't, but which is worse, guy cheated on me, or guy had feelings for another woman the entire time we dated. I think I'm probably the villain in either case. Story 14, high school. I wrote one of my closest, and I only ever had a few friends a hateful letter. She's a quiet, unassuming person with genuine passion for things that I never learned to appreciate. I no longer remember what I wrote, but I still remember what I actually felt. Insecurity, jealousy. I was jealous of seeing her being herself. I believe the letter was intended for me to be open to her, to point out things she should really never be doing, but she never did anything wrong. She just didn't care about being judged, and that's what I'm most jealous of, being unburdened by other people's opinion. Story 15, when I was a sophomore in high school, I had a crush on this stupidly good-looking guy who sat near me in my math class. There was also this one gothic guy in that class that wore lots of chains tassels gothic clothing, and he was very quiet, asocial. One day, stupidly good-looking guy, we will call him Jay, decided to play a prank on the gothic guy. We will call him Jack. While everyone was working in groups, Jay went over to Jack, behind him, while he was sitting at his desk. Jay carefully took some of the tassels, chains that were near the bottoms of Jack's pants, and lifted up a nearby desk so that his chains tassels were stuck on the desk's legs. I remember trying to hold in laughter and giggling, as of course Jay was doing this just to be a peacock, but I had this huge crush on him, so I just went with it because I wanted him to like me. In about a minute after, of course, Jack gets up to sharpen a pencil or something and completely biffs it, and falls flat with a loud thud. He ended up having to go to the nurse because his nose was I was so into Jay that I laughed with him and his friends about it. To this day, this is my biggest regret and something that I wish I had a time machine for. I've since tried to find him, look through the yearbook, try to find him on Facebook, etc., but I've had no luck. Jack, if you're reading this, I cannot tell you how sorry I am that I didn't stop him, that I laughed, even though I knew well that is a shitty thing to do to someone. I was a stupid girl with a stupid crush that didn't even pan out BTW. And I'd love to buy you a nice dinner, and to tell you that I actually love your style. Sorry I was such a villain dumb. Story 16, when I watch movies now, and I see the pompous douchebag bully bad guy doing pointless cruel like shoulder shoving someone or knocking books out of someone's hands, I realize I was that guy, and I was big, and had lots of friends who weren't very nice either. And I realized I probably legitimately scared and terrorized some people when I thought we were just joking around. Story 17, I had someone that I thought was my best friend. Turns out she viewed me as a frenemy. She exploded at me about how I was always trying to show her up by losing weight, or doing well in a class, or changing my major to something useful, or going on vacation, or making new friends and bringing them back to our house to hang out. Everything was to show her up. I wanted to weigh less to make her feel fat. I did well in class because I wanted her to feel bad for struggling, change my major so I'd make more money than her, and make her feel poor. Went to the beach to make her feel bad for her parents not having money they just didn't like her. Or bring over new friends to show her that I can be sociable, and she can't despite me thinking the new friends and her would get along and have fun together. It just got to be too much, and I realized that everything and anything I did made her hate me. I was just out there living my life and doing what I needed to get by, all while trying to not succumb to my suicidal thoughts, depression, and overwhelming anxiety. And she thought that she was the center of the universe. No amount of logic can get through to that crazy. Some say she's still in our city, up every woman who ever contemplated being nice to her, or her friend. Story 18, probably in day Z, when I set up some bait and sniped new players right off the beach for almost an entire half day in Cherno. Got a lot of beans, though, before someone got up behind me and axed me. Story 19, I moved to a new area, knew a few folks, and met some of their friends. One of them happened to be this one girl. Wasn't interested in dating her. Let's start with that. But she was nice, friendly, etc. One day, she tells me she's going to the movies with a friend. I said I'd like to go as well, and asked her to buy my ticket, and I'd pay her back. Anyways, we had a good time, enjoyed the movie, and then as it ended, this girl says she has to run to the restroom. And that's when her friend strikes. She just goes off on me about how all men are dogs. How dare you play with her and spend any time with her? If you want to date her, then be a man and just ask her. There's something about me that just cannot stand having my character questioned. I wasn't trying anything more than being friendly, but this ridiculous moron was insulting me. So I said, fine, I'll ask her out then, just so Shed shut up. And when I turn around, this girl was standing there with doe eyes. She immediately said Shed loved to go on a date. And I was stuck. I wasn't interested in her. I just wanted her stupid friend to be quiet. But I couldn't say I wasn't interested now. Her friend would only have more reason to believe all men were evil. Long story short, I ended up dating her for a couple of months. The whole time just trying to let her down easy. After 2 months, I was able to sit her down and just say I wasn't interested in dating her anymore. She took it better than I expected, but she was still hurt. We didn't see each other for a long time after that. She's married now. So, all's well that invil, I suppose, but I still feel bad. I know I'd hate to find out I'd been treated like that. Story 20, when I said I'm worried I might end up with a B in the accounting tutor room. I think some of my classmates were trying to set me on fire with their mind. Story 21, I used to be mean to this kid when I was in 5th grade who everyone thought was weird. About halfway through the year, I realized that I was kind of villain to him, and I felt so bad I became his friend. We ended up becoming really good friends, and still are even to this day. Story 22 transferred to an office where the local IT guy had been goofing off behind a locked door for years. Proceed to do the job I came to do, and got promoted to a spot over him. He was already resentful before I got there, and massively more so when he did not slide into the slot I vacated, and he was in no way qualified for was real good at that pipe game on Windows 3 though. Eventually he transferred out to a position where I heard they made him actually work. After he left, people told me how much head badmouthed me. They'll call him Doug. A story. We were deploying the first PCS in the office, and our HR reps got a couple. On one of them, the secretary asked if he could install the mouse. Our applications were DOS-based. So it was not required, though the machines had Windows on them, which you had to start by typing Win at the command prompt. This woman wanted to play solitaire. He said no, but stuck the mouse in her desk drawer. A day later, I went by to check and maybe install something. She asked about the mouse. I plugged it in, and he wondered why he never got promoted. Be nice to HR people. Story 23, after I told the guy in front of me at a ghost story to put away his phone, he shouted back he would as soon as I stopped shaking my popcorn bag like a maracas. In my defense, shaking the bag distributed the salt, but I ceased and desisted, so he could hear Rooney Mara eat that pie. Story 24, I had a couple of them, from friends and exes. Former friend was a girl that hung out with the same group I did. She worked with 3 other friends. She took a liking to me, but wouldn't take no for an answer when I told her nicely that I wasn't interested in her. That turned into her escalating to being more clingy, getting mad if all of us were out and I was talking to other girls, to getting really gropey and physical if I'd been drinking. I finally got pissed after weeks of harassment and laid out a list of everything I couldn't stand about her in the most brutal, shitty way possible. She ended up not hanging out with our friend group anymore and told all her coworkers that I was the reason she was depressed and didn't want to live. No, you get therapy and quit harassing people. Ex who accused me of cheating multiple times and couldn't fathom why I broke up with her. She was the type that would flake out on dates or get-togethers with friends, would plan in advance, and she'd be cool with it, then either ghost us the day of or make an excuse to not go. She started talking about a mutual female friend of ours and how I was trying to get with her. I never was. She had a boyfriend, an ID, known her since elementary school, or outright yelling at both of us for cheating and screwing up the relationship that we had. Shockingly, she caused so much drama that I broke up with her. Everyone stopped inviting her out, and I dealt with almost a month of phone calls and texts every day about how horrible I was and how me and the other friend ruined her life. High school, got accused of being a stalker and peeping Tom by a girl who was supposedly the best friend of my then-girlfriend. No idea where the accusation came from, just knew that one day in school people were acting really weird toward me, giving me dirty looks and calling me a sicko pervert. It happened right after summer break, and the girl who accused me said that she had caught me snooping around her house and windows and gave very specific dates. The best part, the dates she gave were during a 2-week vacation I took with my family out of state over 1,200 miles away. All I had to do was show the police my old itinerary and flight stubs. She got busted for falsifying a police report and got transferred to another school. Even after all that, some people still didn't believe me, and that bullshit followed me until graduation. You, Samantha, I hope you get cancer. When I got mental health treatment and realized that no, my ex wasn't a terrible abusive person. She was reacting to the toxic way I treated her without realizing it. I apologized when I saw her a few years later, and she accepted it. Story 25, I was in a college speech class and did a speech about how gay marriage legalized as a new amendment nationwide to the Constitution, because marriage shouldn't be based on religion since the government has recognized the marriage. Note, I'm personally not gay, but I am for equal rights. So, I'm for gay marriage being legal all over the USA, not just certain states. The only difference between marriage and gay marriage is the genders of the spouses. I gave good and even original reasons, including it would actually create new jobs. I ended up having everyone, except the professor who was writing and one classmate, clapping at the end of that speech. About a week later, that one classmate ended up in an anti-rant for his speech. He got stopped before his speech was done and was given an F. I got an A, compliments, and a hug from the hot gay guy in our class for defending the rights. He should have note this is the only hug I've ever gotten from a gay man. So, yeah, after that classmate's rant speech, I realized I was villain for him. For everyone else in that class, I was the heroine for standing up for gay rights. So, remember people, even the hero-heroine is a villain for someone else. Story 26, just now, when I sucker-elbowed my way through a family that was huddled over a map, because they were right in front of the subway door that was about to shut. I'm sorry, and probably that rude girl from the city on your vacation, but please move. Story 27, I had a breakup with my best friend of 7 years. The reason is because I was so in love with her that it was affecting my actual relationships and life decisions. Whenever she talked to me about whoever she was dating at the time, it would with my head so much. As much as I tried, I realized that I will never be able to separate my feelings for her from our friendship. I decided to finally explain this and ask her out. She told me she isn't remotely interested in me romantically. That's fine and I understand, but I can't be friends with her anymore. It isn't healthy for me. This whole situation played out less than a month after she left her of 3 years, and in the middle of her finals week, she sent me the longest message I ever received. She said I was a horrible friend and how she has had a bunch of panic attacks and now has severe issues with trusting people because of me. After the fact, I got back together with a girl. I left to pursue my former best friend. I explained to her what happened, and she understood. She knew the whole time we were dating that I had strong feelings for my former best friend. She took me back without a second thought. Our relationship has been amazing ever since. I've never been happier. am stable now, and my mood isn't dictated by how my former best friend was feeling. I don't miss her, I don't regret or feel bad about what I did. I made the right call, and I'd do it again. Story 28, well, my ex thinks I'm the villain for sure. She's not right, but the question doesn't ask if they're right or not. Got caught with drugs at school, and now she's accusing me of snitching on her. No, you brought drugs to school and started bragging about it to all the stoners, and a teacher overheard. I don't care enough about you to snitch. My dad was opening up a new shopping mall in my hometown. He had bought an old skate park and was going to demolish it so the mall could be built on the property. The skaters there kept protesting the demolition, so my dad sent me and my buddies Cage and Turbo to rough them up. One thing lead to another, and I ended up having a downhill rollerblade race against the biggest loser of the group. Winner got control of the park. Even with all the cheating I did, I still lost the race. My girlfriend dumped me and tried to hook up with a nerd, but he turned her down for some artsy skater chick. Story 29, the time I cut someone off in traffic and almost caused an accident. I had recently switched out of that lane, and I didn't think anyone had filled that spot yet. I thought I'd been watching my rear view enough to know no one was there. I only realized someone was there when I heard the honking. I've been more careful to actually turn my head and look since. I just imagined he was cussing me out afterwards. I'm really sorry, dude in the other car. Story 30, in high school. Well, more like middle high. In 5th grade, all my friends had transferred out for one reason or another, and I was a big wallflower and ended up being picked on, since I was the weakest link out of a grade of barely 30. New girl transfers in 6th. Counselor sets me up to be her buddy to show her around, and we end up being thick as thieves. Big first oh god was probably then in her first week. She deadpan told her fellow students she was the daughter of Satan and that she had dreams of Satan coming and talking to her. Living in Alabama and myself growing up religiously eclectic, I had to play some hard damage control and told her to cut the, but she was serious. Year rolls. We end up adopting a straggler or two into our outcast group. Things are going groovy. 7th, when our middle school starts hits, gain a couple more, etc., etc. By 8th, I was absolutely beyond done with her. She had horrible sleep paralysis that she was convinced were actual demons coming to contact her and tell her when the world was going to end, and she began getting into witchcraft, likely inspired by all the video games she played, but she enjoyed being able to curse other classmates more than anything. She and her family are actually Mormon. She also, on a week school trip to New Orleans, told her hotel roommates that there was a demon horse that watched over them in their sleep and pretended to stand there and pet the air and feed the horse invisible apples. She would also stare at the girls half naked after they showered, ended up scaring the out of one of the younger girls. By late 8th, she had invited herself to sleepovers to proceed to creep everyone, and I had a nightmare about her killing me. That's when I decided I needed out, so I just stopped talking to her, and I knew it hurt her, but ultimately it was either my sanity or hers, and hers was clearly long since compromised. She would write ugly poems about killing the evil people around her and read them aloud in English, became increasingly withdrawn as other members of our friend group followed our lead, and eventually thankfully transferred out. Last I heard, it seems like she's found God again or something, but at least she seems to feel better, and am genuinely happy that she's happy. But in the end, they'll always have to live with being the one who betrayed her and put her in that dark place during our youth. Story 31, as a person who actually helps enforce rules at the school I work at, I am sure I'm a villain to many a teenager, especially the one who is currently suspended and might get expelled for smoking in the elevator. Story 32, I had this great job once. Boss loved me. We just meshed really well. There was a guy there who had started the year before I did. Worked really hard. Let's call him Kevin. Kevin was a good employee, smart guy. Had a bit of a wild side outside work, but never did anything wrong at work that I knew of. Wasn't great at socializing much. Liked to keep to a small group of close-knit friends, but that's fine. We were coworkers, not good buddies. We were cordial. Anyway, boss gives me a task. I do well at it. Give me a couple more. I do well at those. Meanwhile, at work events and stuff, I got along with boss pretty well. We shared tastes in whiskeys and cigars, but boss also shared a love of F1 racing and automotive engineering stuff with Kevin, and they used to chat a lot. The workplace was casual. We'd all been joking and giving each other about everything. It was good-natured. Wow. Shave the goatee? You like you're 9 years old. Oh, did you pay money for that shirt? I hope it was super expensive because that means it's intentionally ugly like that. Well, Kevin used to be really into street racing, like, this is Fast Furious time. So he was on the short list for the board cops in our town. They sometimes staked out his house and followed him around for inspections to see if he had non-street legal parts installed, which, occasionally, he had in the past, stuff like tint on his windows that was too dark, or various other, more performance-centric upgrades. Kevin had a few no-shows, bench warrants for fix-it tickets he never showed up to pay off, nothing dangerous, just nuisance stuff. One morning he's almost at work, and he gets pulled over by the cops. They run his license and find he's got bench warrants. So now he's been over the hood of his car getting handcuffs applied. And guess who drives by? Boss. Comes into work, mentions it to me. I say, wow. Hope he's okay. We find out the next day what happened. He tells us for the next few weeks I give him some about it. Oh, you're on time today. No run-ins with the law? Not every day, just occasionally. I didn't realize how much that was affecting his career. Managers that weren't that close to us didn't want to promote him. He was making bad decisions outside of work, and that could bleed into work because of the fact that we kept his private life in the conversation at work. Lots of people thought negatively of Kevin, even though I wasn't one of them. Finally, years later, when all got past it, Kevin was promoted after a while, cleaned his act up, got married, all that. And he told me a couple years ago that Head hated me, that he blamed me for bringing up all that at work. He thought I was doing it intentionally to make Boss like me more than him, to remind Boss I was more trustworthy or something. I was dumbfounded. I had no idea. I was legitimately doing it because I thought we had a good relationship. I didn't realize it was affecting him at all. I feel bad to this day. And it's been over a decade since it happened. I still talk to him. He's still one of the best guys I know. I can never take back the things I said or the things I did. I made stupid comments without thinking of how they would affect somebody's career. He's recovered now. But how much further ahead would he be if it hadn't been for me constantly bringing it up, everybody up? But a lot of people get to keep their fuck-ups private, or at least more private than this. Entirely my fault, Kevin. I wish I could go back to 20-something me and tell me to shut the up. In high school, I dated the attractive nerdy girl that all of the other nerdy guys had a crush on. Once we started dating, I remember a lot of the nerdy guy classmates that would talk to her in class would always get quiet whenever I was around and get noticeably upset whenever her and I left together. I remember this one kid from France used to curse obscenities at me in French. Since I couldn't understand him honestly, I was totally digging being the villain. Well, my stepmother told me that I belong in my dad's past, and that's where I should stay so he could move on with his life. And that's when I realized that I was her villain and she was my evil stepmonster. And my dad wasn't going to do anything about it. Haven't spoken to either of them in 8 years, but I found out from a friend that they had a baby girl last year. Story 33, pretty much any time I have any contact with my mother-in-law. Apparently my life's mission is to maliciously hurt her feelers in any way I can conceive of. Story 34, my best friend's cousin was bragging about how his password to his World of Warcraft account was a game that he hated. Let's say he's Steven. Steven had the bright idea of using his cousin's phone and prank calling me. One time, my mom picked up and he called her A and was constantly harassing my family. But I had to play it off because I knew that if they did something, my friend would be to blame. So I begged my friend for Steven's username to World of Warcraft, and he gave it up. I got into Steven's account and deleted everything. He had nothing. He sank probably $2,000 into that game over the course of a few years. He called me crying, begging for me to give his stuff back. He ended up calling Blizzard, but this was before they had a decent recovery program. He never got any of it back. Story 35, maybe not the villain, but there's a forthcoming documentary that looks at an alternative sport I play. The doc follows a team from Spain who ended up playing us in the championship match. So we're sort of the antagonists who many people who watch the movie might end up rooting against. Edit for anyone wondering, hey, race the video of the game. My team is in green. The team the movie is about is in black and yellow. Edit 2, hey, race the trailer for the documentary. Story 36, just now, when reading this question, one of my best friends came to me a few months back and explained he was dating my ex. Literally the only ex I would care about him dating, the one that ended badly, the one ex I would never consider being friendly with. I just couldn't understand why. So many women out there, so many dating apps. Why would he actively pursue this girl you barely know on Instagram and start a thing, knowing how I feel about her? I think at first he didn't consider I would have a problem with it. That's why he dated her for a month before telling me. When he told me, I kind of just played it off, but texted him later and said I'm not cool with it. And I never will be. I just knew it would ruin our friendship if he stayed with her because I don't want to see her under any circumstance. And of course, over the months, it was ruined. We don't hang out at all anymore. I couldn't bear seeing him post anything on social media with her in it. So I removed him. It hurt, like I'm sure in his eyes, and the ex-friend who had no chill. And why can't I just let bygones be bygones and get along with him and her and be cool with it? And the dude who unfollowed him on Instagram and Snapchat instead of working things out. Sigh.